Today we're going to be talking about spheres and hemispheres. The nice thing about spheres is there's not a lot of measurements to learn. The only thing you really need is this radius. So the surface area is 4 pi r squared and the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. Notice the cube in there, not the squared. You got to be careful on that one. For a hemisphere, it's the same formula cut in half. Now you can see pretty easily on this one for volume, that's definitely cut in half. This one for surface area, you're saying, oh, Ms. Shoneman, that's wrong. That's not cut in half. Well, here's the deal. Think about the surface area being the orange peel. So if I cut it in half, I'm going to have orange peel right here. Yes? Okay, so that's half the orange peel. But what I also have is this area right here, which is a circle. So to get this formula, this right here is the whole orange peel, so it's going to be half of the orange peel. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 2 pi r squared plus this green circle that we see. And the area of a square is pi r squared. Add them together, you get 3 pi r squared. Now, there are times when we would separate the two, and I'd give you the formula this way. But for online school, we're not. If this circle is not seen, what do you mean by that? Well, what if you had an ice cream cone like down here and you were just doing surface area and this circle was actually not seen because the two shapes were together? Then you would just do the 2 pi r squared. But good news, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's see if we can solve these. So on the first one, the radius is 6 inches. Surface area is 4 pi times the radius squared. So that's 4 pi times 36. You got to do exponents first. So I am going to take 4 times 36 and I will get 144 pi inches squared. Volume is going to be 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. Okay, see if you can remember how to do that in your calculator. We'll review it. The Zoom Mini. 6 cubed would be 216. So we have 4/3 pi times 216. Now before you multiply this all together, you want to see if you can reduce. If this radius is divisible by 3, then the radius cube is divisible by 3. So 6 is divisible by 3. So I know 216 will be. That gives me 72. And I'm going to multiply across the top. 4 times pi times 72 gives me 288 pi inches cubed, because now we're talking about volume. Okay, let's try this again for number 2. So the radius, well, I gave you the diameter. That makes the radius 5 feet. The surface area is going to be 4 pi times 5 squared. Well, 5 squared is 25. So that would give you 100 pi feet squared. Volume is 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. So that's 4/3 pi times 125. So the rule is, if the radius is divisible by 3, the radius cube will be. Well, 5 is not divisible by 3, so 125 is not. That's okay. Multiply straight across the top. 4 times 125 gives you 500. So on the top, we're going to give you 500 pi. On the bottom, 3 times 1 is 3 feet cubed. So if the radius is not divisible by 3, the volume is going to have a fraction. Okay, number 3 and 4, we're talking about a hemisphere. So in a hemisphere, the diameter is 6. That makes the radius 3 centimeters. The surface area of a hemisphere is 3 pi times the radius squared. So we have 3 pi times 9. So we get 27 pi centimeters squared. Volume is going to be 2/3 pi times the radius cubed. So that's 2/3 pi times 27, which gives us 18 pi centimeters cubed. And for some people, it weirds them out that the volume is smaller, but you're not comparing apples and apples. These are two different units. 1 centimeter squared, 1 centimeters cubed, totally different. Okay, number 4, the radius is 7 yards. The surface area is going to be 3 pi times 7 squared. So we have 3 pi times 49. 3 times 49 is 147. So we get 147 pi yards squared. Volume, 2/3 pi times the radius cubed, so 7 cubed. So you have 243 pi times 343. Now 343 looks like it's divisible by 3, but it's not because the radius 7 is not divisible by 3, so that's not. So I'm going to multiply straight across the top and get 686 pi. And on the bottom I just get 3, and it's yards cubed. Okay. Number 5, so we talk about the great circle, which we talked about in our Zoom meeting. This right here would be the great circle, the largest circle that goes through this sphere. Notice that we're going to find the volume and surface area of a sphere when we're done. So we're using the first row formulas. So if the circumference is 24 pi, we can find the other measurements. But before we do that, we have to find the radius. Well, we know circumference is 2 pi times the radius. So 24 pi equals 2 pi r. So the pi's cancel. So 24 equals 2 times the radius. So the radius is 12. Now some of you might say, Mrs. Shoneman, I did not need to write that out. I can do it in my head. Then yes, please do it in your head. There's no reason to write it out if you don't need to. Okay, surface area of the sphere, 4 pi times 12 squared. So 4 pi times 144. 144 times 4. I typed that wrong. 144 times 4. That looks better. 576 pi centimeters squared. Volume of the sphere is going to be 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. So we have 4/3 pi, 12 cubed is 1728. Okay, since 12, the radius is divisible by 3, 1728 is. 1728 divided by 3 is 576 times 4 would be 2,304 pi centimeters cubed. Okay, 2 more problems. This one here says the area of the great circle is 81 pi. Well, we know area is pi r squared. So 81 pi equals pi r squared. The pi's cancel. So I take the square root. Yes, the radius equals positive and negative 9, but we're talking about a distance, so it can only be the positive one. So it's going to be 9 feet. All right, you should be good to go from here. So your surface area is 4 pi times 9 squared. So 4 pi times 81. 4 times 81 is 324 pi feet squared. The volume is 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. 9 cubed, 729. So we get 729 pi feet cubed. Okay, now we need to find the volume of this ice cream cone. So we've got a hemisphere and a cone. So we're going to find the volume of each and then add them together because we have 2 different shapes. Okay, so the volume of the hemisphere, well, this one isn't so bad. The radius is 12, and the volume is going to be 4/3 pi times 12 cubed. I feel like we may have done this one recently, or maybe not. Now I'll run together. 12 cubed is 1728. Divided by 3 is 576. Times 4 is 2304 pi inches cubed. Okay, now let's do the cone. So the cone, well, here's the base of the cone. It's upside down from the ones we've been looking at, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so the radius is 12, so the area of the base would be pi times 12 squared, which would be 144 pi. Okay, now we have to figure out the height. The height is this measurement here. I know the cone and the sphere is 36, but I just need the cone. But think for a second, do we know this measurement here? And the answer is yes. And the reason we know this is because this measurement goes from the center to a point on the hemisphere. That makes it a radius. So I know this is 12. So if the whole thing is 36 and this part here is 12. To get the height, I'm going to do 36 minus 12, which would give me 24 inches. Okay, then you can do volume of a cone. I'm going to go back and look at those formulas. 1/3 times the base times the height. 1/3 of 24 is 8. 144 times 8 is 1152. So you've got more ice cream than cone, which is never a bad problem in my world. To get the total, you got the two shapes and add them together. So 2304 pi plus 1152 pi gives you a grand total of 3456 pi, and your label would be inches cubed. There you go, you're done.